The masters of the civilized world fear strong leaders. Historians have even pinpointed a rough date when representative democracy stopped working. The decline began in Britain, when PR techniques replaced real dialogue with the nation, and political manipulation took the place of public discourse. This shift occurred when marketing methods were introduced into political practice. The system of governance that developed in the West has never been considered perfect. We can recall the American constitutional debates more than 2 centuries ago, where it was questioned whether so-called representation actually represented anyone. Or Winston Churchill's famous remark, "Democracy is the worst form of government, except for all the others." And much more. But for nearly a century and a half, representation worked. And Churchill might have been partly right, but only up until the ultimate triumph of the information society. Historians have even recorded an approximate date of this turning point. The decline, as often happens, began in Britain, when PR techniques replaced real dialogue with the nation, and political manipulation took over public discourse. This happened during Margaret Thatcher's first election campaign, which, with a wave of new conservatism, buried both classical liberalism and the old European political ethics. In fact, it buried old Europe. The decisive, and in the worst sense, revolutionary move was the introduction of marketing methods into political practice. As a result, within the framework of the emerging, essentially new system, successive political leaders became mere salespeople. From then on, they offered opinions and promises to choose from, but had no independent strategic goals or ideals, not even the semblance of them. Consequently, all thoughts of sovereignty, national interests, and the connection between the past and the future were dismissed. As a result, the same monotonous play took hold in the political theater, where puppets of varying appeal, completely obedient to the will of anonymous manipulators, perform almost ritualistic scenes of elections, parliamentary debates, party struggles, and so on. The more frequently the figures on stage change, the easier it becomes for these anonymous forces to control the process. It is clear that no one voted for these forces, no one knows who they are. They are faceless, just as financial flows controlled by corporations are faceless. And most importantly, if you play by their rules, individual characters, nations, and states are doomed to remain objects of external manipulation, step by step losing their understanding of their own interests and their sense of agency. The only antidote to this carefully calculated and thoroughly demonic process is human will. Personality and character. Their greatest fear is the fear of personalized power, power with a human face that gains enough energy and strength of its own to break the strings of marketing manipulation. Everything depends on strong leaders at the helm of major nations. These leaders can play the long game, inevitably becoming subjects of international relations, seeing their tasks more strategically with each passing year, independent of marketing technologies. As a result, they are the ones who bring back grand history and profound meaning to the world. This is precisely how it was in the classical West before it fell into total PR manipulation. Just think of Roosevelt, Churchill, de Gaulle. It's telling that some of these heroes of the 20th century are now labeled as autocrats by modern left liberal journalists. Let's leave this label to their conscience, there is nothing inherently bad in it. A prime example of the importance of continuity in power is the recent history of Russia. Despite the ongoing internal challenges and contradictions, the Russian system not only allowed us to defend the existential interests of the country during the special military operation but also contributed to the formation of a new political nation. This system fostered the societal consensus that so deeply infuriated the collective West and profoundly inspired the global South. Moreover, it is this stability in power that enabled Russia, from a globally historical perspective, to stand against the dictatorship of minorities and to defend traditional values and the very concept of humanity. In a scenario of political instability and dependence on PR approval, this would have been simply impossible. We would have been easily played by forces that believed their financial capabilities guaranteed their global triumph. However, reality turned out to be somewhat different. The masters of the civilized world do not favor the turnover of power because they somehow care about the will of the people. They do so only because, in their global machinery, they hope to protect themselves from strong and experienced opponents who maintain a strategic vision and the ability to act in the national interest.